Welcome, CM community. This is Bella Crafton. I'm a third-year CM student and a CCCE ambassador. I would like to introduce my guest, Bobby Van Hollebeke from Swinerton. Thank you so much for joining us today for our hard hat discussion.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to be here.
All right, well, we'll get right into some of the questions right now. Just to start off, could you share a little bit about your career path and how you ended up in your current role?
Yeah, I've had kind of an interesting career path, kind of a winding career path, I guess you could say. So I started out, went to Cal Poly Construction Management, obviously, and did a couple internships while I was at Cal Poly, worked in the field as a concrete laborer one summer. And then I actually found out about Swinerton, met Swinerton at the Reno competition, and was just talking to somebody who worked for Swinerton, happened to be an executive vice president at Swinerton, and we kind of did an interview, and I ended up working an internship for Swinerton the following summer, and starting as a full-time project engineer after that. And I started out initially in estimating. We have a rotation in estimating, so I did a year rotation in estimating. And after estimating, I went out in the field for a couple of years, came back to estimating, and then I went to our Portland office after that because of my wife's career, and worked in special projects as a project manager, and had a really good experience doing that and working in a different market in a different smaller office in special projects. It was really a good experience, a lot of repetition, working with a bunch of different clients, and then moved back to San Diego where I am now, and worked as a project manager in pre-con and estimating on a large high-rise project, followed that project out to the field, and then was a PM on projects for a couple of years. Then I went to our renewable energy group and worked as the project controls manager for about a year. And now I'm a pre-construction manager again with the builders group in San Diego. So kind of done a wide variety of different things and had different roles at Swinerton. And I've really enjoyed that, and having different opportunities within the company and kind of make changes in my career, but stay with the same company, and had a lot of good opportunities throughout my career at Swinerton.
That's awesome. So you've really gotten to move around a lot and try out a lot of different hats in the industry.
Yeah, I think, and that's one of the coolest things about the construction industry is there's so many different opportunities. Like I said, you can be I was in estimating, so you kind of do estimating and some little bit of business development in that role. And then you can be on a project doing project management. You can be, I switched kind of different industry to our renewable energy group doing solar. So, there's just so many cool opportunities within construction management. And I think for me, it was cool to explore all those opportunities. I didn't want to have do one thing forever. I wanted to experience, different parts of the industry and learn as much as possible. So it's been a fun journey.
That's great. Yeah. As a CM student, that is super important, I think, for me and everyone else in the CM community to hear. I think one of my fears going into the industry is that I would kind of go stagnant and not be able to try out different things and get stuck in kind of the same routine every day. So it's really great to hear that you're able to move around and really kind of find your niche within the industry.
That's really important to remember. I think as a student, everybody talks about the kind of the project engineer to project management route, and that's not the only way. Actually a couple people I went to school with at Cal Poly they went the project engineer to superintendent route at Swinerton. So, that's an option. There's so many different, and that's different path than I went, but that's just an example of another path you can take. So it's a really cool field to be in.
Could you explain a mistake you've made on a project and how you learned from it? Feel free to answer that as much or as little as you would like to.
Yeah, I think, in your career, you'll make a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes. I think everybody makes mistakes, and the most important thing is to learn from them. I've lived a lot of mistakes that I've made, and those are small technical mistakes or mistakes in the pre-construction and estimating world. So for me, the big thing was I keep a list of all these lessons learned or mistakes I've made. I use it so that I don't make the mistake again, and I can record it and remember it, and then the next time I see that on the project, I hopefully won't do the same thing again. What we try to do at Swinerton is kind of share those with our peers so that, if they haven't made that same mistake, you can share yours. Kind of besides the estimating and pre-construction mistakes that I followed out to the field, there was one particular experience with a client I just moved to Portland. Just became a project manager. I had a change order at the beginning of the job, and seemed like a pretty clear-cut change order. It was adding like an acoustical treatment on a wall. And he promptly called me up and said, "This is ridiculous. Any cheeseball contractor off the street would know this should not be a change order. You have to know that's part of it. It was required. It should be part of that, wall detail. This is not a change order." So I went back to the sub and was able to work it out. We ended up having a really good relationship on the project. Through that, I realized, even though I think it was legitimate change, probably not worth, arguing over these little things. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong in that situation. It's kind of the big picture thing, and just maintaining the relationship was the key thing.
And everything obviously worked out, so not too big of a mistake. What for you has been the hardest part about transitioning from school to work, and how have you kind of just navigated that whole kind of year post-graduation?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference from being in school to working in a job is, like, when you're in school, all your decisions and most of your actions, they really only affect you. So like if you, for example, if you are busy with something or don't have enough time to study on the test, it's a personal thing. Like your grade on that test is affected. It's mostly, your decisions affect you. But when you go into the workplace, you're working, on projects with teams, and your company is affected by your decisions. So my work product on that estimate affects an entire project team, and sometimes a division. Or if a superintendent needs an answer on a question, and I need to get that answer from an architect, me getting that question answered affects the entire project. So, kind of that mental transition, I guess, from like, your actions are affecting you to your actions affect a whole team or group of people. It's hard because, there's an added pressure on you, but I don't think it's a bad hard. It's a good thing. I mean, I like it. I like working on teams, and I like, when you have a supportive team around you and you're working for your team and with your team. Like, I like that part of it, but it's definitely like, a switch and a change from, working on your things for yourself to working on things that affect like a broader group and a team.
Is there any advice you could give to possibly graduating seniors, or even third years here at Cal Poly, just how to kind of prepare for that transition?
The more kind of team things you can do while you're in school. So like if that is, joining an intramural team or a club team as early in your college experience as possible, and kind of continue throughout.
And we do have a multitude of opportunities at Cal Poly. We're very grateful for that. And I think we just kind of got to utilize that. What would be a piece of advice, just in general, that you wish someone would have told you while you were still in school? Kind
of the ownership structure of the company you're going to work for. So, there's various types of companies and structures out there. Family-owned companies, could be smaller subcontractors or smaller general contractors, or family-owned, or there's publicly traded companies, or like Swinerton's 100% employee-owned. And I didn't really understand how important that was and what it meant for the culture of the company and how it kind of determines the culture. I would just say do your research and really understand, the ownership structure, what that means for the culture of the company, and how it will affect you and your entire career path. Could you talk a little bit about the company culture at Swinerton, and is that kind of one of the pluses of working there? Or what would you say is one of the highlights of working for Swinerton? To me, what's unique about Swinerton is I have lifelong friends from working at Swinerton, which I really value, and it's really important to me. And I also have people that will support me at work. It's a friendship, but also a professional relationship where we're here to support each other and want to see each other succeed. So to me, that's really important in a work environment. In construction, there are long days. For you, what's the key to keeping a good work-life balance? I personally struggled with work-life balance, and it was my own issue, I think, at the beginning of my career. I thought, I needed to be at work all the time. I needed to work really long hours because I thought it'd look bad if I wanted to take vacation or needed to take care of some personal thing on work hours. But I was totally wrong. Take a vacation. Be really intentional about making time to take a vacation because you need that break. The other thing that I think is important and helps a lot is having a hobby. It gives you something else to think about, something else to do other than just focusing on work all the time. You kind of already talked about one of your favorite parts of your job, but could you touch on one of your least favorite parts about your job as well? For me, one of the most challenging, and it's different for everybody, but one of the challenging things for me is having difficult conversations about money, which happens a lot on projects, with change orders. Those tough conversations, they're not fun. But I think what I have found is that when you learn different techniques and you get better at it, it can be good. It's like a good feeling after those conversations if you have them and they're successful.
I'm in our Women in Construction Club on the board, and we just had a workshop kind of addressing negotiations and having those hard conversations about money. I think that a lot of students or first-time hires kind of think that they can't be having those conversations too, that they're not far enough in the industry, don't have that experience yet, that they maybe can't be asking for more. As a recruiter, even, what would you say is something that you would look for in a student bringing up that conversation?
My advice would be just to practice, talking about it in a casual way and not really being confrontational and not being super formal about it at first. And then as you progress through that conversation about that topic, you can get more specific and more formal about it.
What would you say is the main thing that encouraged you to join the construction industry, and what's the main thing that is why you choose to stay in the industry today?
There's such a good variety and different paths you can take. So I like that. I like to do different things. I've always enjoyed playing sports and being on teams. So being in construction is a lot like that, especially on projects. And then pre-construction, you're on a team, and it really has that team environment, which I really love. So, the variety of different disciplines and then bringing all that together in a team setting. And that is something that's really important to me, and that I've had at Swinerton is mentorship and mentors. And I think that is something that you should definitely look for in a company, is that they have some sort of culture where that is important. Sometimes there's formal mentorship programs or not, but I think informal ones are just as good as formal. But what I think is also important about having a mentor is they can advocate for you in your career development. They can help you figure out what you should be doing to take the next steps, or they're gonna, whether you know it or not, they'll talk to their bosses or managers and kind of advocate for you for growth. So I think it's really cool to have people that you can ask questions to, and they can give you some guidance on how to progress in your career or paths you can take, but they'll also advocate for you on the side of you getting those advancements. There's a ton of Cal Poly people at Swinerton that I work with, I've worked on projects with, but even outside of my company, at other companies within the industry, I still get together and talk to, now it's talking on the phone, but we still stay in touch and communicate and support each other. If we have questions or if we, have different markets we work in, I still, talk to a ton of people from Cal Poly, even at different companies. So that community is really cool and really important, and you'll see it throughout the rest of your career. I think what you do at Cal Poly, getting involved with industry so early in your path is so important and very unique. And I would say fully take advantage of that and talk to as many companies as you can, get to know, work different internships for different companies, and really understand the cultures of the companies that you're interviewing for, because it's really important if you want to stay with a company for the long term to understand and really want to be part of that culture. So take advantage of the opportunities that you have at Cal Poly. There's so many to get involved with industry, and like I said, it's unique. So really just take advantage of that, and you're in a really cool spot in your career. And it's a long, fun journey, but your career is just starting now. It's a really fun time.
Well, thank you so much, Bobby, for joining us today, and thank you to the CM community for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.